When it comes to Travis Hunter, every play won't be a big play, and that's okay. And I'll tell you why it's okay here today.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is your team every day here on Locked On Jaguars. We thank you for making us your first listen. I am Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast that you can find wherever you get your podcast. Just make sure you tap into that location, whether you watch or listen each and every day. We will be there. Also, shout out to the everydayers for joining us here every single day. We appreciate you spending about 30 minutes of your very, very valuable time with us here on Locked On Jaguars. And if you're new, welcome also, and I'll give you a reason to come back. All right, let me give you a rundown of what's going on today. We're going to end up talking about the defensive process and how it takes a little time. The impact over statistics, how we'll use that to compare and contrast what we expect out of Travis Hunter and what is realistic from Travis Hunter. And now we'll go to the very top and begin the show talking about how we need to be careful with expectations. There are two players I want to bring up when I talk about Travis Hunter. And those two players are Reggie Bush and Ricky Williams, non-quarterbacks. I'll get to that in a second. The reason I say we need to be careful with expectations with Travis Hunter is because of the hype, because of the expectations that may be realistic or just optimistic, especially when it comes from the fan base. You have a good reason to be happy and enthusiastic about Travis Hunter being on your Jacksonville Jaguars because he is a talent that you don't see. He is superfluous in the way that he approaches the game and how he plays the game. His genetics are mad crazy. Like people, I'll be joking with people all the time saying they need to check him. They need to figure out where he came from and go back to that lab and see if there are any people. It's just any other people like that. It's just that it almost seems like, and it's not just seems like, it is. It's like the kid has some supernatural ability. And I believe he understands that. And he's humble and he approaches it the right way. And the difference between many guys like this that succeed and guys that don't succeed is he's not caught up in the hype. I think the funnest thing for him, besides dancing, the funnest thing for him is competing and playing football. And I think he loves to do that, and he does everything he can to make sure that he's in a position to do that. That in of itself is a reason why you should be happy with him, because that is what elevates a franchise. It's infectious. It is contagious. And when the brass and the coaching staff understand that and really want to cultivate that into the form of what it requires to build a team, it works out. And I do think that James Gladstone, as well as Tony Baselli and Liam Cohen, they are on point with not necessarily knowing what it's going to look like, but look, we're 4-13. We ain't won nothing in a long time. We just need to get this guy in our building and figure it out. And I applaud them for that. But the thing that comes along with it is the expectations. Already you're hearing people after the first preseason game say, missed the tackle, talking about his wristbands, and he did this and he did that, and he didn't go to the sticks, and he didn't break a tackle. And okay, I'm not saying it's not true, but it's just the way that you have to look at things. You have to temper your expectations. If you're a fan, don't be getting caught up and getting sucked up into the media bloviating all day about how this guy needs to do this and do that to live up to this team giving up five picks, 2 of them being first round picks. Don't fall for it. Don't even pay attention to it and don't even listen. I told you this with Trayvon Walker, and it turned out to be true. Nobody will care about his stats if the team wins. His rookie year, the Jaguars went to the second round of the playoffs. His stats weren't that great. Stats improved, team lost. All of a sudden, Trayvon ain't worth it, and we want to trade the Jaguars a third-round pick for Trayvon Walker, which is dumb, right? You see how that's what I mean about letting narratives continue. That stuff continued this offseason. What would you trade for Trayvon Walker? Somebody said a 3rd and a 5th round pick, but I'd have to get a 4th back or some crazy thing like that. And I'm just sitting there like, what? Jaguars come in here, the new brass comes in here, and what do? First person they give a 5th-year contract to is Trayvon. They brag about him all the time. He's always at the podium. He's working hard. He exemplifies everything they want this football team to be. And you had a bunch of bird brain nitwits out here talking about giving up a 3rd or a day 3 pick for Trayvon Walker. That's how this stuff starts. So I'm going to tell you right now, be very, very careful with the expectations that are levied on Travis Hunter. Every play won't be a big play. Some will be routine. He might even drop a pass. Lord, what's going to happen if Travis Hunter drops a pass the way Jamar Chase was doing in the preseason? And oh, by the way, Jamar Chase is the highest paid wide receiver in the history of football. And if he ain't 1, he's 2 on a lot of people's list in the National Football League. Yeah, I thought so, just like I thought so. Didn't even play his last year of college, right? Dude dominated the NFL after missing a whole year. So let's get back to this Travis Hunter thing. Travis Hunter probably will never have Jamar Chase numbers. I think Brian Thomas Jr. might, maybe, but I think the presence of both of them will prevent them from getting 1,700 yards and catching 120 balls. Maybe it won't, but it's possible. But Brian Thomas Jr. plays a factor in all of this. He ain't taking backseat to nobody. And it's not about them competing or beefing with each other. It's just about, y'all must have forgot that the Jaguars got a number 1 receiver already. So Travis Hunter's going to be like 1A. And on defense, he's going to be 1A or 1B in terms of being a corner. That scenario tells you that statistically, he might never get to where you want him to be. But if this team wins, it'll all be based on the tide rising because the talent went up. And you'll still have people saying, yeah, but that's not what you pay 2 first-round picks for the number 2 overall pick for. They still do it with Trayvon. Says who? Who says that's not what you pay for it? Who created these rules? Oh, you got to now determine what you pay for a good player, especially if the team wins. Ain't nobody going to give a damn about none of that stuff. Except people looking for a reason to say, I told you it wasn't worth it. You already got people saying, we should have took a 3 technique. It's just like that, man. This is the way that it's going to be. And I'm not trying to prevent it because that will be futile because it happens. It's going to happen. I'm talking to the people that this is going to connect to. This ain't for everybody. I'm not for everybody. This is just for the people that pay attention to this show every day that say, wait, give me a different perspective. And that's what I'm going to give you here. I'm going to tell you why impact over statistics matters. And I'm going to talk about Reggie Bush and Ricky Williams, 2 guys that came into the league, non-quarterbacks that had the same type of height. In fact, when you look at non-quarterbacks, I can't think of 2 other people, 2 other people outside of Travis Hunter that have had this expectation of impact when they get to the National Football League. I think we got one coming down the line in Jeremiah Smith in a couple of years and maybe Ryan Williams. But historically, over the last quarter century, those are the 3 guys that are non-quarterbacks that I think the most hype. Maybe Jadeveon Clowney came close a little bit, but I'm talking about people that are going to have their hands on the football. I'll hit all of that in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. All right, today's show is sponsored and presented to you by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with fantasy football experience like never before. Me and my boys at Playmakers and the Showtime League, we're playing Yahoo Fantasy for the 20th year, 18th year in a row, and you should too, whether it's your first time or if you're a veteran playing in your millionth league. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine Leagues, a killer new way to play football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. With the season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and get this new mode a try. If you're more into classics, you can still play head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more killer announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football at yahoofantasy.com/locked-on. Moving along here on Locked On Jaguars, Tony Wiggins. Before I continue, I want to tell y'all this. I had a little medical setback over the last week, and I do apologize if the coverage was lacking a little bit, but I also appreciate those that told me, Wig, stay away. I ain't quite back there yet, but you might be able to tell I'm a little more spry than I have been the last couple of days. So thank you very much. Now we'll go ahead and continue with the show. Those everydayers, man. That's why I had to do that, because the everydayers told me, we love you, we need you, man, but just get yourself together. I brought up Ricky Williams and Reggie Bush, guys that are non-quarterbacks that are going to touch the ball and get touchdowns, as examples of people that, folks, the hype was through the roof. Rightfully so. I love both of them coming out, and I love both of their careers. But there were people that say that they didn't live up to a whole bunch of stuff. They didn't live up to what we expected. They didn't do this and they didn't do that. Percy Harvin's hype wasn't quite as high because there was some off-the-field stuff, like him knocking out coaches at practice and stuff. But he was still a very high pick, right? And Percy Harvin is someone that I'll throw in here a little bit, because when you think of Percy Harvin, and you hear great NFL players when they talk about, I heard Cam Newton mention Percy Harvin as one of those greats. When you hear guys talk about him, they're like, man, that dude was so good. And then he had some migraine issues and all of that. But the thing that you can think about when you think about Percy Harvin's NFL career, I think about Percy Harvin in that Super Bowl when Seattle whooped Denver. And he returned that kick all the way back. And it seemed like every time he touched the ball, he was going to score. So it encapsulates what I'm talking about here when I say it's going to be the big moments more than it will be the career statistics with Travis Hunter. Now, mind you, Percy only played one side of the ball and then he played special teams. Travis is going to play both sides of the ball and will probably get a chance in big moments to return punts, the way Washington back in the day used to use the Hall of Famer Darrell Green, who's a corner. But people don't remember. In big games, Darrell Green went back and returned punts. Antonio Brown went back and returned punts. Speaking of Antonio Brown, Travis Hunter, if he played wide receiver, he just played one position, might be able to have a 5 or 6 year run the way AB did. And that his 5 or 6 year run is the best I've ever seen for a wide receiver. And I'm not kidding. Randy Moss is close and Jerry Rice is close. But that dude went ballistic for 5 years. Maybe able to throw Megatron in there too. But you get my point. I don't think he'll ever do that. I don't think Travis Hunter, he may never, especially with him being on a team with Brian Thomas Jr. and other really, really good players. I hope he's a career Jaguar. I hope both of those guys I just mentioned are career Jaguars. But if that's the case, he may sprinkle in one statistical year where he gets 100 catches and 1,400 yards. I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think he's going to be a consistent 75 to 85 catch guy, hovering right around 1,000, 1,100 yards, getting touchdowns, playing corner, getting remarkable picks and interceptions at corner. In fact, I got a feeling, I ain't talking about the Pro Bowl, I'm talking about being all pro, first team. I think if he makes first pro all team, it'll be at cornerback before it's at wide receiver, only because of opportunities. At wide receiver, you need volume. And some of the dudes that get a lot of those numbers are on teams that have to throw just to survive. And some of those dudes that get those numbers are on teams that don't have anybody on their roster that's anywhere close to him physically. The Jaguars have Brian Thomas Jr., so that's not true for him. But Reggie Bush, let me get to this. All of the hype with Reggie Bush. And people still somehow think that Reggie Bush, when they talk about Reggie Bush, they talk about college. Granted, Reggie Bush only rushed for 5,490 yards in the NFL and had 36 touchdowns, nowhere near Hall of Fame. And then he had 477 receptions for 3,500 yards. So you're looking at, 10,000 total, 9,000 total yards. He had 18 receiving touchdowns. He had 4 return touchdowns. So you're looking at 36 and 4 is 40. You're looking at 58 touchdowns, which is a really, really good career. But people will tell you he didn't live up to the hype. He wasn't a bust, but he didn't live up to the hype. Well, it's not his job to live up to the hype. Hype is human made. That's what we do. We hype stuff up for whatever reason and we blow it up. Let me tell you about Ricky Williams. This is where it gets a little tricky. Ricky Williams had 10,000 yards rushing, 66 rushing touchdowns. He had 342 receptions for another 2,600 yards. So that brings him up to 12,600 yards for his career with 8 touchdowns. So Ricky Williams has just as many touchdowns on the ground as Fred Taylor, averaged 4.1 yards a carry, has 12,600 yards, and total touchdowns, he's at 74. He's not a bust, but people will say he did not live up to the hype. And this is where I want you to be careful with your own Travis Hunter. It's about impact, not stats. Travis Hunter's biggest and most memorable moments in his career are going to come in those biggest games. In the biggest games, when a team dares, when they think they're good enough to go one-on-one with them, and you're going to see it. I promise you right now, if they play the Houston Texans, they're going to put Derek Stingley on him. I promise you right now, if they play the New York Jets, they might put Sauce Gardner on him. And you know what they're going to do when they put those guys? They're going to do the same thing that you would do if Travis is playing defense and he's guarding Garrett Smith of the Jets or he's guarding Nico Collins of the Texans. You're going to go one-on-one. In the Jaguars' case, is a zone that they need to tighten up, and we'll talk about that in segment 3. When you have great players, you know the worst thing that can happen, or you believe the worst thing that can happen when he's playing against another great player is a stalemate. And usually that's okay. You give up some, you get some. If you put Penei Sewell on Myles Garrett the whole game, Myles Garrett might get 1 sack and 1 pressure. 1 sack, 17 games a year is 17 sacks, brother. That ain't bad. But giving up 1 sack, one-on-one to Myles Garrett, that ain't bad either. So there's a way that both could be, right? Go back and watch these Super Bowls where Lane Johnson was going up against Chris Jones. It's give and take. It's give and take. You ain't going to make a field day beating him, but he ain't going to make a field day beating you either. But Travis is a little bit different because you can do that on one side of the ball, but now you got to stop him on the other side. That's where it matters more. And what even makes that so good and how that affects the Jaguars in such a good and positive way is that's how the team gets lifted. That's how the team gets lifted. You need Travis Hunter and you need Brian Thomas Jr. You need Travis Hunter and you need Jordan Lewis. You need Travis Hunter and you need Trayvon Walker to get sacks. All of these things work together. This team starts getting to the point where they win in 12 and 13 games. Ain't nobody going to be worried about any statistics. And as long as Travis Hunter is on this team, you can bet this one thing will happen. He'll be great when you call his name. And when his name is called in those big games, when it matters the most, when he is likely being guarded one-on-one because they can't guard both of them, they can't double and bracket both of them, that is when the magic is going to show up, much like Percy Harvin. But do not get caught up in these stats and start setting yourself up in the future to have these statistics start bogging you down like a wet blanket on your head and letting people make you believe that this kid ain't what he's supposed to be. That is not true. The Jacksonville Jaguars have a great player. They just have a great player whose impact are going to be bigger than his statistics might suggest. And common sense will tell you that'll happen because he's playing both ways. The last thing I'll say about that is this. There's a lot of people that told me that the reason why they were playing him at wide receiver more than they were playing him at corner is because they view him more of a wide receiver than a corner. Well, Liam Cohen told Kay Adams that, no, we practice him at wide receiver. Listen, this is something I told you here on Locked On Jaguars. I'm not bragging, but I'm just telling you I told you because that's where most of the development was needed. He can roll out of bed and play corner, but we needed to develop him more at wide receiver. Didn't I tell you? Yeah, I thought so. I'm going to tell you something else in just a second. I'm going to tell you about this defensive process that has everybody all panicked once they saw that first preseason game. We'll get to that, and I'll calm y'all down some more in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. All right, man, today's show is brought to you and sponsored by FanDuel. August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week one even kicks off, this is your moment. I'm going to tell you right now, the Jaguars are going to win the AFC South. Y'all don't believe me. I don't know what I can do to help you. You're just going to lose your money. Visit the FanDuel app today and start playing your futures bets now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only, and that's August 26th. FanDuel, play your game. Rolling along and moving and grooving here on Locked On Jaguars, where it's your team every day. We talked about Travis Hunter in the first two segments about tempering your expectations, not because he ain't as good as you think he is, but you got to pay attention to impact more than you pay attention to statistics. Maurice Jones-Drew is another real good example of when you look at career statistics, his impact. You cannot tell me that he wasn't a great player. Chris Johnson kind of comes to mind too when you think about guys that people don't really give Hall of Fame consideration that were really, really great players. But those guys didn't play both ways like Travis. Travis plays defense too, and that's where I want to park this on the defensive side of the ball for just a second. Jaguars defense kind of looked like warm butter, and it had a hot knife going right through it the other night called the Pittsburgh Steelers. We know that. But the thing about me is I keep telling people you don't want to know how the sausage is made, man. It's hard when you pay attention to like the process of them getting better, because it'll lead to you having doubt, especially when you already got Stockholm syndrome, because this team has been bad for 25 years, right? For the most part. Go back and look at Jacksonville in 2017, the team that had such a great season and a great defense. They went 1-3 in the preseason, I think. And there are games that they didn't look good. If I would have seen concern on the faces of those players, I'd have been like, okay, there's something going on. I don't see concern. Those guys were on the sideline in street clothes in the second half, smiling and laughing. Liam Cohen wasn't laughing. No, Liam Cohen said they need to clean some stuff up. What he said was, and I'm going to paraphrase it, that they need to tighten up a little bit and be more, be more engaged and have more stick it to them, right? So what he's talking about is this. They're learning to go from man to man to zone. From man to man to zone. When you're used to sticking with a guy, and it's arguable to say that they're used to trying to stick to people, that they didn't do a good job of sticking to nobody with their 4-13 self, and I get that. It still has to take something to transform your mind into how are we gonna now? We got to get to our spot. And you can literally see on film guys running back to their spot. They want their technique to be right. They want to be where they're supposed to be. That's what a zone is. A zone means you're where you're supposed to be, right? And then when people come into your zone, it kind of turns into a little bit of a matchup zone if you ever played basketball and you understand you're in an area, but when somebody enters your area, you're playing man-to-man while he's in your area. And then when he leaves your area, you wave bye-bye to him and you pass him off and communicate with somebody else. But it's not like during the middle of the play, you can say, hey, Tyson, he's coming. No, it's not like that. You do a lot of stuff pre-snap. You pass off. You may point while the guy's running by. If Tyson is staring at the ball instead of staring at a man that he's trying to guard, he can see that. He can peel off. You're not going to always beat there. Florida State's defensive coordinator said something yesterday. Sometimes the ball going to beat you. You can't beat the ball. If everybody does everything right, you ain't going to be able to beat the ball. But your effort and your understanding need to be on point to minimize the gains that those teams make. Also, to minimize the open looks that quarterbacks have. Right now, the Jaguars played their first preseason game. They're in their infancy in Anthony Campanile's system. Therefore, what that means to me is they're playing with their mind rather than their eyes. Eyes lead to instincts. Your mind leads to your eyes being a navigation system where you see it quicker. And then your football instincts, that's where I think Liam Cohen was coming from when he says they need to be a little more sticky to the guys in their area. The players were probably guarding against they were probably guarding against falling into their old habits of chasing that man too much or being too locked into that man because they know they need to be in their zone. The game the other night, instead of it being something that creates doubt in your mind, needs to be looked at as something that you can truly expect those players to learn from. Because, yeah, you're functionally doing the right thing, being where you're supposed to be. But the other team functionally understands that, and they're running to these spots. And you're playing against the team that they've had the same coach for 18 years. They've pretty much done, much to the chagrin of people who criticize the Pittsburgh Steelers, that they haven't changed. Old familiarity whipped the Jaguars' ass the other night, because while the Jags are a team with a bunch of new players and a new staff learning a new defense, the Steelers are a bunch of mostly the same guys running the same old stuff, and that just so happened to be in the first preseason game for the Jacksonville Jaguars. These guys will watch the tape and the instincts will kick in. Travis Hunter is going to be a monster in this because the instincts is one of those things that makes him a whole lot different from anybody else. It's just now everybody getting on the same page and communicating pre-snap and understanding some stuff. In this defense, I believe you're going to give up some big plays. But in this defense, I think you're also going to make big plays. Remember, just as we said the offense was vanilla for the Jaguars, I think the defense was really, really vanilla for the Jacksonville Jaguars in the first preseason game. So just wait. Just calm down. Don't let this get to you too bad. And I'm not just sitting here playing nice. And there's going to be some people, I know they are, going to say, there he is, trying to make sunshine and rainbows. No, you got me bent if you think that's what I am. And anybody that listens to this show knows I do not do that at all. What I am telling you, though, is there's a time and a place to be mad and angry, and this ain't it. This is after the first preseason game. Y'all just got to calm down a little bit. Let the thing be the thing, man. Let it get to where it's supposed to be. Save all of your angst and all of your anxiety for the regular season that'll be here in less than a month. But don't be tripping on this yet. Just calm down. Let things happen. Understand that mistakes will be made. Understand that the defense will give up some plays. Understand that Travis won't make every play. Everything's not going to be spectacular. Other teams have guys that are playing too. Some plays Travis Hunter makes are going to be routine. Sometimes the defense are going to give up big plays. It's all right. This is a slow process. You cannot fix everything in 1 year, but you can get it going in the right direction. And I think Liam Cohen and the staff deserves a chance to be able to do that. Y'all want to make you some bread, man, and get your bets right. Or if you just want to be the smartest guy in the barbershop, go to Locked On Bets, man. That's right. Make it your second listen, because betting experts Lee Sterling and Kevin Rogers have daily Major League Baseball locks and can't miss football futures, which are eventually going to turn into football presents and right nows. Find Locked On Bets on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Thank y'all for joining me today and spending a little over 28 minutes here with me. Check out Locked On NFL too, man. The barbershop is twice a day, actually. Tyler Rowland in the morning and the barbershop in the afternoon at about 2 o'clock. Twice a day on Locked On NFL. I'll be over there yapping as usual. Once again, I appreciate y'all and your well wishes. Your boy might be back, but we're going to take it slow. We're going to give it to you every day here on Locked On Jaguars, just like you expect. Take your time with this team. Be patient. We'll see you next time.